Classrooms sink or float students. Is classroom learning really best for everyone? In today's society, it isn't. Let me explain. Hi, I'm Misty, a credentialed teacher with over 20 years of experience in second language acquisition, mathematics, and elementary education. I help students, parents, and educators navigate the evolving science of learning and rethink how education actually works. This episode is inspired by posts I have been making since 2018 in online forums, which helped lay the groundwork for what is now known as the science of reading. Many of the key ideas that Emily Hanford later presented as her research were already being discussed and shared by me in these forums before she brought them to a wider audience. It's gratifying to see that the techniques I've been refining for over 20 years are now being embraced across America. Her voice played a crucial role in raising awareness and bringing these ideas into the mainstream. And for that growing recognition, I'm truly grateful. Emily Hanford visited early elementary classrooms to find evidence of the ideas I shared. As I later pointed out, she was essentially searching for a needle in a stack of needles. The truth is, phonics and the science of reading aren't the magic bullets to solve all reading problems because historically, we've never expected learning to happen only in the classroom. Classrooms were meant to introduce the facts, but the real work, the practice and reinforcement of skills, was always expected to happen individually outside of the class. Navigating the waters of education. Education should empower each student to sail smoothly on their own journey without being held back by the struggles of others. Every learner should have the support they need to move forward, free to navigate their unique path toward success. The evolution of education. Education is always in motion. As the world changes, so do the needs of students, and with them, the very purpose of school itself. We no longer live in a time when teachers are the gatekeepers of knowledge. Students today have access to more information than ever before through videos, tutorials, and online tools. Age-based grouping. Imagine a world where every stage of life, people were grouped together solely by their age, whether it's in a workplace, in families, or in social groups. Sounds absurd, right? Yet, that's exactly what we do with education. We take students, group them by birth year, and expect them to progress in lockstep with one another, regardless of their individual readiness. Developing complex skills doesn't have a particular age. Some people begin grasping letter sounds at 2. Others don't learn those same basic skills in reading until 7. Yet, traditional classrooms push everyone forward together, promoting by age rather than by mastery. Age-based social promotion has become the norm, where students are moved to the next grade simply because they have reached a certain age, regardless of whether they've mastered the foundational skills needed for that next level or not. At no other point in life will someone be expected to progress in a complex skill solely based on their age. Yet, in education, we continue with this outdated model that assumes age determines readiness. It overlooks the individual differences in how and when students are truly ready to move forward in building a complex skill. It treats development as a one-size-fits-all process, ignoring the unique paths each learner takes. The result isn't just an inefficient system for teaching and learning complex skills. It can set students back. When we force children to rush through when they are not ready or skip over essential steps, gaps form that are difficult to bridge later. What we need instead is a flexible, personalized approach that meets each learner where they are and lets them progress at their own pace. The evolving role of the classroom. As information has become more accessible than ever before, The traditional role of the classroom as a one-way knowledge transmission hub has become outdated. Today, nearly any piece of information is at our fingertips. Teachers are no longer needed to impart knowledge. However, classrooms still often group students by age, creating artificial divisions that don't reflect how people develop complex skills. These age-based divisions overlook the fact that each student progresses at their own pace. Rather than being placed in an environment where they can advance at their own rate, many students are forced into a mold that stifles their potential. The focus of the classroom should shift away from rigid, age-based groupings and towards a more personalized approach that recognizes and supports the unique learning paths of each student. Instead of moving students forward based on their birth year, we should prioritize helping them develop essential skills at their own pace, whether that's learning to read, mastering math, or refining critical thinking abilities. After all, students have always done the hardest part of learning, the practice, outside of the classroom. The classroom setting has traditionally served to introduce new concepts and provide structure, but the real work of internalizing and mastering skills has always been an individual endeavor. The challenge now is to stop using age as a measure of readiness and instead focus on the model that allows students to progress based on actual development. By embracing flexibility and a more personalized approach, we can help each student reach their full potential without being restricted by arbitrary age divisions. The truth about classrooms. In May 2021, I wrote something that still resonates. It's really hard to be motivated when you feel like you're trying to do it all alone. In a classroom, we are all on a sinking ship together, working to bail out water. Some are more efficient than others, but the overall result is we make it through together. Asynchronous classes feel like each person is on their own, bailing water to stay afloat. Sadly, we are more likely to give up when we are on our own, but those people who are doing more water bailing than others in the class would probably be able to easily float their own individual boat. Sadly, the ones who aren't doing as much work are going to sink with no one to help them. This is the reality. Traditional classrooms create a shared experience. They're not driven by perfect instruction, but by shared struggle. That sense of community, the feeling that we're all in it together, can be powerful. It keeps some students from giving up. But while some classes help weaker students stay afloat, they can also hold stronger students back. When classrooms hurt more than they help. In many classrooms, the stronger students are the ones who are doing the most water bailing. They're carrying the load, asking good questions, setting the pace, filling the gaps. In a class of 30 or 40 students, not everyone can or will pull their own weight. Some students lack foundational skills, while others haven't yet developed the work habits they need. As the learning gap grows with age, social promotion only exacerbates the issue. Even the best teachers struggle to bridge that divide. We like to believe that the rising tide lifts all ships, but what happens when some of the ships have holes? As the tide rises, they may sink even faster, and when stronger students are tethered to them, trying to help, they risk sinking too. No student should be asked to sacrifice their own potential in an effort to desperately help keep failing vessels afloat, especially when that may cause them to go under too, no matter how hard they try. Remote learning and individual success. When it comes to mastering complex skills in areas like reading, writing, math, science, and history, classrooms may not always be the ideal environment. While they offer structure, they often aren't designed for individualized skill building, also known as learning. In contrast, remote learning can be incredibly beneficial, especially for stronger students, without the distraction of the traditional classroom, such as managing group dynamics or carrying the weight of others' learning, these students can thrive. Working at their own pace, they can accelerate their progress in ways that are difficult to replicate in a classroom setting. Remote learning offers them the freedom to dive deeper into topics, revisit concepts as needed, and take ownership of their own learning. Remote learning allows stronger students to sail freely at their own pace without being weighed down by the struggles of others. They can accelerate their learning unimpeded by the needs of the others in the group. That said, classrooms still hold some value for students who require more structure and accountability. However, the way they've traditionally been organized hasn't really met the needs of any learners. For students who learn quickly, the pace can be stifling. For those who need more time, it can feel overwhelming. While classrooms can support guided learning, they are not the most effective setting for mastering complex skills or addressing the full range of student needs. Testing and accountability. No matter how or where a student learns, we still need reliable ways to measure progress. That's where testing comes in. In-person tests serve as an honest checkpoint for assessing the complex skills a student has developed. They help identify gaps in learning before they become long-term setbacks. It's not about teaching to the test. It's about ensuring that foundational skills are solid and in place. Think of testing like checking for holes in a ship. Without regular inspections, small leaks can go unnoticed and become bigger problems. Similarly, testing allows us to identify gaps in knowledge before they grow into major obstacles. It's an essential part of maintaining steady progress, ensuring that no student falls behind due to gaps in complex skills. As a classroom teacher, I'll admit something that most people wouldn't be willing to admit to themselves or others. I wouldn't feel comfortable homeschooling my own children without some form of external accountability. It is not because I doubt my ability, but because without oversight, it's too easy to let things slide. The truth is, as humans, we often think we want to learn, but when it comes down to it, few of us are actually willing to do the hard work that learning requires. Lifelong learning through hard work with a positive attitude and integrity. Without accountability, it becomes far too tempting to avoid the challenging tasks and put them off until someday. Learning is hard. Teaching is hard. And when there's no one checking in, it's tempting to skip the difficult tasks or save them for later. One of my fellow teachers had a saying on her back wall: "Someday is not a day of the week." Real progress takes consistent effort. A little each day adds up. You might not notice it immediately, but over time, the growth becomes undeniable. This is why accountability matters. It keeps us honest. It keeps us focused and reminds us that learning requires consistent effort, not just good intentions. Without accountability, even people with the best intentions may find themselves starting to sink. Practical tips and resources. In upcoming episodes, we'll explore practical strategies for effective reading instruction. But if you're eager to get started now, check out my Learn to Read and Write Teacher's Manual, Volumes 1 and 2, and the Student Learn to Read and Write Journal. These resources offer a clear, systematic path for teaching letter recognition, phonics, and blending, like having your very own tugboat to help pull your reading instruction forward. Now, back to the conclusion. Classroom instruction is like putting every student in the same leaky boat, where success depends on the effort of everyone aboard. A few may bail more water than their share just to stay afloat, while others barely lift a bucket. When the boat sinks, it takes everyone down with it. Unfortunately, even those who are strong enough to float their own boat will go down with the ship. Modern education needs to move beyond a one-size-fits-all model. Not all students thrive in the same environment, and that's okay. We shouldn't ask parents to sacrifice their child's potential just to keep a struggling class afloat. Yes, some students will help, as they always do, but those who can't keep up won't automatically rise to the occasion. Meanwhile, those who can may find themselves going down with the ship in the process. We often hear that a rising tide lifts all ships, but if the ship already has a hole in its hull, the incoming tide won't save it. It will sink the ship faster. Trapping our strongest students in classrooms that don't serve them and ask them to do the impossible, bail enough water to rescue everyone, is unfair. In modern education, with personalized learning and diverse pathways, this model no longer works. Every student deserves the chance to chart their own course and in doing so, rise with the incoming high tide. Thank you for watching this episode of KZ Academy. If it resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with others who care about the future of learning. And as always, keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring the amazing world of education. See you in the next episode.